Hello, I'm Catherine Maguire. Welcome to the Soul Alchemist podcast. It is a beautiful day in southern Italy today. It has been really hot, and a couple of days ago, we had the most fabulous downpour of rain that has taken the sting out of the heat and cleared the air. So it's a gorgeous blue sky, fresh air, sparkly summer's day today. So wherever you are in the world, I'm sending that beautiful, sparkly, fresh energy your way. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. I've been thinking about Italy a lot the last couple of weeks because in September we will be here 10 years, which feels amazing. And in some ways, it feels like, it all happened 2 seconds ago, but we're 10 years in this September. And I thought today it would be nice to share the story of how we came to live in Italy, why we chose to come here. Partly because it's an interesting story, I hope, but more importantly, because I know many of my clients, and from the feedback I've had from some of you who are listening to the podcast, you're in a change cycle. So either you're at that cusp a bit before you make a change, or you're in the process of change. And whether that's change because you're single and you're looking for a partner, you're partnered and you're looking to step out of your relationship, you're looking for work, or you're changing careers, or you're in the process of moving countries yourself, or there's a family dynamic going on and you want to bring some new energy into it and change the dynamic that's playing out, or there's something going on in a personal relationship where you want to bring change. So I know there's a lot of change constellating at the moment. And the thing about change is there's an actual process to it. I think we can feel, often quite disempowered or, kind of fearful of change. But actually, if we understand the dynamics of change and what that looks like, it puts us in a much more inspired and empowered place. So I want to tell you my story of how we came to live in Italy, but also offer you the change dynamics in the hope that they will help you in your change process. So when I met Vince it's about 20 years ago now, um, he was living in a lovely house in the Wicklow Hills. It was a really old house. It was about 200 years old. And he bought that house to be close to his daughters after he'd separated. So after a while, after we were together a little while, I moved in with him. And that's where we made our lives. And we made our lives there for a good few years. And then in Ireland, we had a really hard winter. So in the Wicklow Hills, we were snowed in for the best part of a month, which in many ways was beautiful. I like snow. That was really lovely. What wasn't so lovely was the consistent cold cracked our boiler, the system for heating our house. So we'd no heating in the house apart from in the living room where we had our wood burning stove. So we pretty much lived in the living room. And just to give you some idea of how cold it was in the rest of the house, in the bathroom, the water in the toilet bowl froze. That's how cold it was. And just to rub salt into the wounds, our plumber actually lived next door, the person who was going to fix the boiler, but he was snowed in as well and couldn't get out to get the part. So we used to go into our plumber's house to have a shower and to go to the loo. It was a really bonding experience, let's say, during that snow. So when the snow passed and the boiler was fixed and the loo worked again, we had a conversation, which was, if we're going to stay in this house, we need to invest some money in it and kind of modernize it because it's old and it needs some restructuring. Which then prompted the conversation, well, do we want to stay in this house? And for me, the answer was a no. It was a lovely house, but it wasn't my house. I'd moved into it because Vincent bought it. It was quite a trek from that house to some of my friends and family. So it was quite remote. And for Vince, he'd bought it to be beside his girls when he'd separated, but his girls were teenagers now and they were off doing their thing, you know? So it's like, oh, okay, where will we move to then? And that prompted a conversation, which was, well, do we want to stay in Ireland? And the answer to that was no, in that Ireland had changed. The pace of life had become very fast, even in the countryside. And we just really felt that we wanted to be somewhere else. It's like, oh, where will we go? I don't know. And then in 2012, I wrote a book called Tending to Your Inner Garden. And with tending, I decided to take the book on the road. So I went to Australia, Hawaii, America, Canada with this book. And Vince came with me. So we were on the road for 9 months. He took a break from his business consulting business. And we went on the road with this book and we taught workshops together. We met people. I taught workshops. I shared about the book. And in the back of our minds, it was, we're traveling to a big hunk of the world here, big hunk of the English speaking world. Surely we'll find somewhere that we want to live. But we didn't. What we did find, however, was the ingredients for the life we wanted. And those ingredients were somewhere preferably with a Mediterranean climate. In the southwest of Australia, there was kind of a Mediterranean type climate. And it was like, oh, like this. Somewhere with 4 seasons. Somewhere where the quality of food was really, really good. Somewhere where nature was wild and you could step out onto it. We'd been in lots of places where you'd see something beautiful, but it was all fenced off. You couldn't actually walk out onto nature. And somewhere where there was a strong sense of community and people had a really strong sense or connection to the land on which they lived. So they were the kind of priorities we wanted in our life. But knowing what we know about change and knowing what we know about alignment, having those priorities, having your list is only one step. That's the first layer of clarity. What do I actually want? So if you're in change, what do you actually want? Not what don't you want? What do you want? What do you want? Be that your relationship dynamic, your work dynamic. What is it? What do you actually want? Not what are you running away from or what do you want to leave behind? What do I want? That's the first step. And then the second step, which is the most important step, is the feeling underneath your desires. So we had our desires: Mediterranean climate, 4 seasons, really good quality food, strong community, people with a strong sense of connection to the land and what they lived. Okay. They were our desires. But what was the feeling? Because everything works off the feeling. And the feeling we both had was, if I could give you the image of a real ancient, fabulously ancient old tree, with roots deep into the ground, this beautiful kind of gnarly trunk, and these branches reaching up skywards and spreading out. And that feeling of being rooted and grounded and centered, and a slower pace and just space to expand. That was the feeling we both wanted in our lives. So when we came back from Ireland, it was like, okay, we have the feeling, we know our desires. Where is this place? And we didn't know. And then a friend of ours came to visit, a lovely man called Barry Actel. And Barry is a kinesiologist, a really fabulous kinesiologist. And if you don't know kinesiology is a system of muscle testing to find out, to discover any imbalances in the body so you can bring it back to harmony, to health. And Barry, we were having this conversation with Barry, and he was like, well, why don't I muscle test you for where would be good to live? And I thought, wow, that's kind of a funky idea. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if I believe it can work, but let's give it a go. And Barry muscle tested both of us. And we both tested really strong for Naples, Napoli. And I'd been to Naples. My sister used to live north of there. And I was like, Barry, that's really nice, but there's not a hell's chance I'm going to live in Naples. It's a city. It's crazy. That's not where I want to be. And he's like, okay, just telling you, just telling you what I found. And so Barry went off, and then Vince said to me, why don't we use it as kind of like put a pin in Naples and work out from there? And I thought, okay, well, that's a good idea. So one of the ideas I had from our time on the road was to do house sitting, because I knew from traveling for those 9 months, accommodation takes a big hunk of your cash, you know? And I thought, what if we could do house sitting? But very quickly I figured out that as good an idea as I thought that was, I had two dogs and we'd left them behind in Ireland when we'd gone traveling with tending with my book. But I wanted to bring them with us. And house sitting wasn't going to work because most people who were looking for house sitters wanted you to look after their animals and didn't really want you bringing additional animals into their home, which I could totally understand as someone who had dogs and had, you know, as pets. But what did happen was on the house sitting website, I saw this fabulous place, a stone house in the mountains, looking out to sea. And I thought, oh my God, that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. And I didn't know you could have that. I grew up beside the beach in Ireland, but there was no mountains. Where I was living with Vince, we were in the Wicklow Hills, but you were a long way from pretty, you know, a good 40 minutes drive from the coast. You couldn't see the sea. I thought, wow, imagine being somewhere where you can be in the mountains and see the sea at the same time. That's amazing. So I just went looking for accommodation online. And somehow, through some search, I found this place. Beautiful stone house. You're in the mountains, looking out to sea in the Gulf of Polycastro. This beautiful house, 3 hours south of Naples. So I emailed the property owner and I explained to them that we were looking to try out living in Italy for 5 months over winter. Because I grew up beside the beach, I knew everywhere's gorgeous in summer, but winter is when you're really tested. And would he be interested in doing us a rental over winter? And he emailed back and he said, absolutely. He said, I usually do short-term Airbnb rentals in summer. But he said, I'm happy to do your winter rental. There's going to be some groundworks going on while you're here. So I'll reduce the rent to accommodate for the bit of noise. And he gave us a really good price for the winter. It included electricity, included wood for the fire, everything. It was a really amazing price. We thought, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So we packed up our car, packed up our two dogs. We'd already sold our house at this point, and we came for 5 months. Got the ferry to France, drove across France, drove all the way down through Italy, all the way up into the mountains, got completely lost, eventually found this house. For a woman who thought where I was in Wicklow was quite remote. This was remote. But we got here and we loved it. And that was 10 years ago. And we haven't gone back. And from that house, we moved to another house near the village and then moved to an apartment inside the village. And then eventually we bought our little house. And we live somewhere where there's a Mediterranean climate, where there are 4 seasons, where people grow the most amazing food, beautiful, nutritious, healthy food with no chemicals or anything else, where there's a really strong sense of community and where people are really connected to the land on which we live, and where we're surrounded by these ancient trees with roots into the soil and these amazing gnarly trunks of oaks and olives, and their branches stretch skyward and outward. And we feel rooted and grounded. And the pace of life is slow. We feel we can breathe. And the past 10 years have been a lovely journey of grounding into who we are and expanding out into ourselves and expanding our work out into the world. So what I want to leave you with today is this. If you're in change or if you're on the cusp of change, get clear about what do you want? What do you want? Not what are you running away from or want to get away from? What's the pulse, the positive pulse that you want? Okay. And then get clear about the feeling underneath. And this is hugely important. The feeling has authority. Remember that. The feeling has authority. But, and this is the caveat, and this is a really important caveat, if that feeling is fear-based, you have some work to do. Because whatever the feeling is, that becomes the pulse, the energy pulse that you're going to carry forward. So if you're feeling, your underlying feeling is one of fear, you're going to create whatever you want, that change based on fear, and there will be more fear there when you get there. So you need to do some work to alchemize that fear. So instead of fear, it's something grounded and expansive. All right. A sense of peace or excitement or aliveness. But if it's fear, you've got some work to do. And if you don't know how to do that, get in touch. I'll gladly take you through the process. So the feeling has authority, but that feeling, you need to make sure it's not a feeling of fear. You can do change from either place. Okay. Fear or expansion. But if you do for fear, change from fear's place, there'll be more fear waiting for you at the other end. Okay. So alchemize the fear, get the gold, get the lesson, get the magic from that fear. And then you have an expansive energy. Then you have fuel to facilitate the change for the desire that you want. So the feeling has authority. The feeling has authority. Get clear on the feeling. When you're clear on the feeling, then sit with that feeling, be present with it. And I promise you that feeling will inform you of the actual practical steps you need to take, or it'll bring things into your universe to help you with it. Like it brought Barry into our lives. Barry just rang one day, said, could I come and stay for a few days? I was like, yeah, sure. And he gave us that next piece. All right. And then when I had that idea to go on the house sitting website, and then I saw that house within the mountains of sea, and that gave me such a feeling in my body. That was, aliveness and expansion. It's like, that was that next piece. So you follow it. It becomes a treasure hunt. You follow the clues, you follow the energies that take you to the place you want to get to, and it becomes an adventure. So wherever you are on your journey in that change cycle, get clear on your desires. And then underneath the desires, what are the feelings? Or that feeling. If there's fear, alchemize it. And then allow that beautiful, expansive, alive energy to inform you to bring the change into your life. So the change becomes a reality and you end up having the experience you want to have. So I'd love to hear from you this week. Are you in a change cycle? Where are you in it? Have you been through change? And then you've had that moment of going, yeah, this is it. I'm out the other side and this is the feeling I wanted. Let me know. Let me know. I'd love to hear. And please do remember, if you enjoyed the podcast today, please like and share and subscribe. That helps me a lot. It really helps the podcast stretch out its branches and its roots into the world. So have a gorgeous, gorgeous day from my heart to yours. Have a beautiful, beautiful, joyous, sparkly, expansive week. Aho.